Okay, so now that we have our beautiful piece of salmon, we need to put a topping on it. What we're going to do today is a tomato caper relish. Without a recipe, you're probably thinking, oh my god, well, how much of what do I put in here? Well, it's pretty simple. You just look at your ingredients and you know how much flavor these things have. You know onions are really strong. You know garlic's really strong. But you know tomatoes maybe aren't so strong. So you're going to put a lot of the tomato in. You're not going to put as much of the onion and the garlic in unless you really like onion and unless you really like garlic. Additionally, this topping is multi-use. I've used it on several things. My sous chef back in Michigan, I would watch him put this on everything from chicken sandwiches to burgers to just anything. Someone posted that they were going to make this salmon and the relish and mix it together and put it in a salad. I was like, what a great idea. That's an awesome combination. And the sun-dried tomatoes. You might not have had sun-dried tomatoes before. They're very potent. They take the regular tomato and they just put so much more flavor into it. So maybe you don't want to put a lot of these in there to start. You can always add more of your items too. You don't have to put a bunch in there at first and don't think that you've ruined it by doing that. But if it says tomato caper relish, it should taste like tomatoes and capers. Someone also said that they didn't like capers. I'm like, that's cool. Capers are all right. You know, I'm not a big fan of them myself. So you might have something that's a nice substitute for that. Olives. Olives are great. Black olives, green olives, Kalamata olives. I think pretty much everyone has some form of olive in there, so you can use that instead of the capers if you wish. So we're going to do some basic knife cuts here, and we're going to put together the relish. What I like to always do when I'm cooking is I have a couple of things set up here. My board, which you always want to take some sort of non-stick material, or I am cheap, so I'll use Bounty paper towel, and I'll put it right underneath because you don't want your board to be slipping. You don't want to be chasing things around while you're trying to cook. It's not real safe playing with sharp objects and slipping it around. So see, now it's not moving. Additionally, I have two things here that I worked on some tomatoes earlier. So instead of wasting the insides of the tomatoes, I'm going to use these for some stock later. This is a garbage bin, basically. So here I'll peel my onion into that, and then I'll keep this for my stock. You want to be a good cook. You want to be a chef. You utilize as much of the food as you can. You know, I know a lot of you have kids, and we're all on a budget. Times are tough, so you don't want to be wasting food. So when I'm peeling back the onion, I don't like to just cut into it, especially in something like this where it's going to be raw. There's a reason for that. This thing grows in the ground, and if you push your knife through that skin, and you're pushing all that dirt or whatever might be in there through that onion, you could get botulism from that. You don't want to get people sick, especially your family or your friends. They might not be coming back for round 2. So I'm going to start here at the tip and then go to the base. And I'm going to be careful not to cut the entire base off, and you'll see why here in a second. So then right through the root, or where the base is, I come down like that and discard this. Now if you look at the onion, it has a natural contour of where it grew. I'm going to follow that with my knife. So you just come in. Also, the root is going to help hold this together. So I'm not going to cut all the way back. I'm going to cut.
What is the root?
The root is where it grew, where it grew from the ground.
Oh, like.
So this little portion right here, you can see it right there, is basically the root, and it's going to save it. So what that does is keep it together. So you can get yourself like nice regular cuts. It looks uniform.
Do you have any advice for people who maybe get teary-eyed with onions?
It's funny you're saying that because
I'm about to cry right now.
I never get teary-eyed. This is one of the strongest onions I've ever cut into, and I'm getting pretty teary-eyed. There's some different things that you could do. You could wear like fancy onion goggles. No, I'm just kidding. You can like take it, and I think you put it in the fridge, or you can use like cold water to kind of rinse it. That'll help. But you know, try not to get emotionally tied to the onion. That really helps too. So we're going to go ahead and slice through. Also, I want to mention this. The way you hold your knife is very important. You never want to hold it like this because you're not going to have much it's just not going to be very stable. And it's a good way to cut yourself. So I'll grip it right here with my fingers, and your beginning of your index finger goes on the top like that, and that'll keep it nice and strong and keep your grip nice and strong. Also, keep your fingers like this so you're not cutting them off. So you see that I see a lot of people like cut into an onion like this. There's no need to do that. If you're dicing it, you just follow that. If you're julienning it, you just cut that root out like this. And we're not doing that, but I'll show you real quick. And then you just cut the whole way. So if you want to julienne it, you get the long strips, then you go the whole way. If you're dicing it, you just go to the end, you turn it, and you dice what you need.
Oh my gosh, I'm so emotionally attached.
So now we're going to work on some tomatoes real quick. Try to clear out the air. What I have here is Romas. I like Romas because they tend to be the most consistent. Even like if you're using them in August, or if you're using them in November, they're pretty much the same. You can use whatever type of tomato you want. If you like heirlooms, use those. But I try to use things that are readily available to everyone out there watching, so you don't have to go and be on a scavenger hunt. So I've quartered the tomatoes, and then I'm going to work my way in and kind of like fillet them, and that's how you get this meat out. This white portion there's not a lot of flavor there, so you kind of want to remove that. Additionally, the seeds, they just are kind of weird in your mouth, and it makes it all mushy, and it's kind of strange, so I just take that out. But you get the idea. So then I'm going to come through, turning it, keep my fingers right, keep my knife the correct way, and slice through.
And how important is it to have a sharp knife?
It's very important, especially when you are cutting tomatoes or something like a pepper where there's like a skin on the outside. Even through like skins of onions, that's probably the most times I've cut myself, is when they have that weird kind of skin on the outside and my knife slips over. So I try to remove that. That's why I pulled off a lot of that onion when I did. I don't want to cut myself first time around. But yeah, it's really important, and you'll see that when we get to the herbs here next. Also, I like to use this. These are probably not so difficult to find now that food's a little bit more popular in this country. It's just a bench scraper. So it just kind of helps like moving the product into the bowl, as opposed to going like this with your knife and doing it. I've seen people cut themselves pretty bad that way. Better be safe than sorry. It's like $1, so it's worth it. Now, I know you don't have time to make this in advance this time, but I went ahead and I made, this is like the finished product. I'll show you what it looks like. I made this in advance because what happens is once you salt it and you put in like the vinegar that I'll show you here in a minute, and then the capers, all of it kind of makes it, it's called marries it. It marries all the flavors together, so it ends up, you get a fuller flavor out of it than if I made it right now and then used it right now. We're going to go ahead and throw it together here. I'll show you what it looks like. You can kind of get ideas of amounts. If you got questions on that, ask. It's probably like about a cup. And this is a strong onion, so we're going to lay off a little bit. Also, like with garlic, you see these recipes and it says use 2 garlic cloves, 3 garlic cloves. Well, I've never seen 2 garlic cloves that look exactly the same. So what does that mean? Some of them are huge, some of them are small. It's just, I don't know. Recipes are ridiculous. As long as you have the key components of a dish, which are saltiness, sweetness, bitter, fat, and acid, and you put all that together, you got a winning combination. Then the other part is just properly salting it. And if you're not sure on that, I worked an entire year with my chef back home, Chef Aaron, who taught me how to cook. Every day for a year, I'd be like, Chef, does this taste good? Is this enough salt? And he would say, I don't know. Is it enough salt, Marby? And I'm like, okay, this is annoying, but I'd like sit there and think about it, and the more you think about it, the more you judge it. You say, well, yeah, I think it is, or no, it's not. And you know, if you have family members or friends, there's never a shortage of people that want to try food. So have them try it, ask what their opinion is, and eventually you'll get that down. And to me, that's the most important thing about cooking, is properly seasoning that. I've been to restaurants with like where I thought, oh, this great chef is going to make this meal, and I've been in there and I'm like, you can't properly season, you know, like your soup? Like, what the heck's wrong with you? And I'll pay like, you know, $40, $50 for that. So I'd rather do that at home, and I'd rather you guys do that at home and learn that. And eating salt is just like a haircut. You can always put more into it, but you can't ever take it away. So don't oversalt it. Once you've oversalted it, you've ruined it. So we got the garlic in there, we got the onions, we have the tomatoes.
What about the basil?
We're going to put that in at the last minute. Capers and olives. Don't drain your juice out of it. Chef back in school would say, how would you like it if I took your blood out of you? So I guess that means that they want to stay in the brine so they stay healthy. Okay, now with herbs, you slice them. You don't chop them. And I'll show you the difference. When you slice an herb, you're going through it like this. Can't tell you how many times I've seen people cut chives and they just chop down and you smash it. You can see it. It's like smashing into the cutting board. You're like sealing off the flavor and you're smashing it into your cutting board. You're losing out all that flavor. Just like those idiots on TV that smash garlic all over the place. That's not cooking. You're ruining a good chance to get some good flavor in your food.
So you go one way and then you go the other way?
Yeah, I mean, you can chiffonade it, but that's what that's called when you just kind of slice it. But if you do that with this, you're going to have like long strips of basil. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. Just be kind of like hanging out and stuff. So I don't really like that. Chiffonade's good if you want like a nice garnish. You can do that. But we'll work on that another time. So I'm going to put all that basil in there because I love basil. I can never have enough of that. I think there's a few of you at home that think the same thing. So we're going to go with the sun-dried tomatoes. These are pretty good tomatoes. I tried them earlier, so I don't need a ton of the sun-dried tomatoes. Like I said, they're really strong.
Did you cut those too?
I did. They came in this these nice like sun-dried halves. You can actually even do these on your own. You can do them in your oven. But yeah, they look like this. These are pretty readily available, but they get really small. They're nice. It's just basically the same thing. They take plum tomatoes like that, and you put them in your oven at a low temperature, and you dry them out.
But you cut them like the same way you cut the basil or the tomato?
I like the tomato, yeah. So there's our salt. And then this stuff, I love this stuff. Balsamic glaze, you can use this on just about anything. I think they do on the Food Network. But really all this is a reduced balsamic vinegar. And it's delicious. It makes it sweeter. So I'm going to step around you and grab the olive oil here. Pour a little bit of that in there. And I'm going to grab the salmon out because I don't want to overcook my piece of salmon. Beautiful. There's another winner, I think. And this is it. You mix it together and just taste it. See where you're at. Usually I'd add a little bit more salt, but it's right on. I did just make one about a half an hour ago, so I'm not that good, but. So that's it. Pan-seared salmon, tomato caper relish. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, like I said, please post them. I'll do my best to help you. And thanks for letting me cook for you. Till next time.
Oh, wait, question.
Oh.
How long does the salmon cook in the oven?
See, that's going to depend on like the thickness of the salmon, your temperature, or I'm sorry, your type of oven. But generally, it's about 8 to 10 minutes. You know, so check it out, take a look at it. Like I said, do the test here. Like this one's a little bit more firm. I don't know if you can tell than this one.
Yeah.
So,
I can see it.
but yeah, give it about 8 to 10 minutes. You know, use that recipe as a guideline. It's not always going to be that way. If it says do it for this long, you know, this isn't baking. If I wanted to follow a recipe, I'd be a baker, and I just don't like baking. I don't really care about that stuff. But you do need to use it as a guideline, at least for your ingredient list and for about how long to cook it. So, thanks. Till next time.